populated area at low level, we don't fly single engine aircraft. So most of the aircraft which take part in Republic Day, say let it be Su-30 or MiG-29 or Jaguar, they are all twin engine aircraft.
All right.
So that
We'll have to
that
leave
is
it at that. Air Marshal Amit Tiwari, thank you for joining in on CNN News 18 and sharing your precious insights. It's deeply tragic, no doubt. We are awaiting a proper investigation into what exactly led to that air crash. But Poonam joins me now with more details. In fact, we could take our viewers through what exactly happened. It's a deeply tragic day, not just for the Indian Air Force, Poonam, but for the entire nation. We've not just lost an aircraft, we've also lost a fighter pilot.
Absolutely, and that's the most unfortunate bit. What exactly transpired in those few seconds while it was mid-flight, and what was the reason that the pilot couldn't actually eject? That's something that needs to be looked at as well, and that is going to be a crucial point as we bring it out to our experts who join us here. My colleagues Akash will continue to be with us as well. But as far as what exactly transpired, why it is that the pilot couldn't eject, was there a particular reason? All of that, of course, will come out once the IAF conducts a thorough investigation on what happens, which will come to the fore in a few months, perhaps a few weeks at least. But as of now, these visuals that you see on your screens, here's what we know is that this was during the Dubai Air Show. For a few minutes, the Tejas was in air. And then you can see it suddenly nosedive, and then there was a smoke that you see, a fireball there on the ground and smoke billowing from there. Unfortunately, a fighter pilot has also been lost. The pilot who was inside the Tejas, unfortunately, could not eject. The Air Force has confirmed that. Akash is joining us, getting us more details as well. Akash, what exactly transpired in those few minutes? That's something that is going to be a matter of investigation. The IAF eventually will release, hopefully, those details, which will give us an insight of what happened and how we can avoid it next time around.
Right. So incident happened at around 2 p.m. now, 2:10 p.m. of the local time. This is what we are learning in the latest information. And also, this was when the aircraft was in the air maneuvering, as it was a part of 8-minute show, very much decided by the organizers, after the Surya Kiran aerobatic team. And, for the last 4 or 5 days, we have been seeing that how this aircraft is performing. But today, something went wrong and pilot could not eject. The visuals are somewhere indicating, that it is possibly losing its thrust or something. That's when pilot maybe did not have an idea as to if the plane is not going up in the air or something, this happened because of which he could not eject, and we are learning that we have lost the pilot as well. Now, whether or not there was some sort of technical malfunctioning or what went wrong, under what scenario this has happened, is something we'll wait for the official inquiry to reveal. But an investigation has been ordered. In fact, we have got a comment from Dubai Media Wing as well, Dubai Air Show Media Wing as well, where they have confirmed the particular crash, and in fact, are somewhere talking about the unfortunate news of the death of the pilot. But as far as IAF Tejas is concerned, so it is one of the reliable platforms. You see, Poonam, Air Force pilots rely on it, given that it is there in the operation for last more than 20 years, and this is the second such incident where we have lost the plane and the pilot.
Akash, do stay on with us. Wing Commander Nikita Chatterjee, defense expert, also joins us. Wing Commander Chatterjee, what do you think explains what exactly transpired from the visuals that you may have seen of how it all went down in a matter of just a few minutes? What do you think may have happened?
Hi, Poonam. So the visual that we can see on the screen, as everybody knows, it for Dubai Air Show was going on. The aircraft was carrying out aerobatic maneuvers. So during the time of aerobatic maneuvers, the aircraft is, operating at its maximum capability. The aircraft Tejas, as it has been designed, it is made up of a material which is very lightweight, very convenient, and very operating at speeds and in kind of angles in which that aerobatic show can be conducted. So, what exactly happened has not been known yet, but might be that while the aircraft was in a turn or was in a maneuver, in such kind of a maneuver, a technical mishap would have happened, or a technical issue, which the pilot, because the pilot at this point in time is, doesn't at this kind of a training doesn't happen in a day. A very capable pilot who's undergone multiple hours of training, and after multiple rehearsals come to this stage where he can conduct a air show over a very crowded area. So definitely would have been a kind of an emergency where he was not able to react or did not have a time, or was in a position where the aircraft could not have retrieved itself to gain height or come into a position where he could have recovered.
And speaking of that, as far as the ejection seat of the Tejas is concerned, it's believed to be something that allows you, even when you are flying at low altitudes or even at zero altitudes, maybe at takeoff or at landing as well. And despite that, we saw that for a very long time, for a few seconds, even though when the flight was mid-air, there was no ejection that we saw. Is that probably because perhaps the pilot was incapacitated?
Oh, that I cannot assume that. Maybe as we can see, the height of the aircraft is very low, and Tejas is capable of carrying out ejection at that point in time. But what I may assume that the pilot must have tried to rewrite the engine. We know it is a single cockpit, is a single engine aircraft, so all the workload at this point of time comes to a single pilot. And he must have tried rewriting the aircraft, because no pilot ever tries to abandon the aircraft if he feels he can recover it, is what I believe, after having worked in this profession, air traffic controlling, for such a long time. So that could be what reason that he would have tried recovering the aircraft, and the time limit was so less that he could not.
And speaking of the Tejas itself, Wing Commander Chatterjee, it's believed to be one of the safer ones that we have. This is only the second time that we've seen such a crash after its induction in 2016. So there has to be an investigation, and there will be an investigation into what exactly transpired so that we can better the kind of efficiency that this fighter has.
Definitely, an investigation will be carried out, because we have Tejas is a class aircraft, much, and it is one of the best. Kind of aircraft that we have in Indian Air Force right now, suitable for multiple roles, air defense also, combat also, strike also. So, this kind of aircraft undergoing this kind of crash, that too at an international air show, I'm sure investigation would let us know why and what happened.
Do stay on with us. Air Vice Marshal Ravi Kapoor, former Air Force officer, Commanding-in-Chief as well, joining us on this broadcast. Air Vice Marshal Kapoor, if you could just tell us, you must have seen these visuals as well. You must have sort of gotten an inkling. What do you think actually happened in those few seconds, in those few minutes from takeoff to it being mid-air, then suddenly hitting the ground, turning into a huge fireball?
You see, first I would like to correct the Air Force officer who was commenting on trying to relight or restart the engine. It never happens. These kind of statements are absolutely incorrect, and it's a very, very clearly laid down procedure for a pilot when he can restart an engine and when he cannot. So such speculations I would like to put to rest. That's the first thing. All these air shows, the air displays are extremely well orchestrated, well planned, and very many time rehearsed. They are even rehearsed in a simulator, and so all kinds of minor wrinkles are ironed out before an aircraft goes for an air show like this, especially abroad. Tejas has performed at many international air shows, and it is performed extremely very well. It's a very safe aircraft, and it's got a great control system and a very good engine. All these maneuvers are actually broken down in an air display into very small little packages, and so every second that a maneuver goes on is a changeover from one maneuver to another. And so the pilot constantly checks his energy, his direction, his height, where he in relation to the air show areas, and things like that, in relation to the crowd and things like that. And so there are only two reasons which could result in a catastrophic accident like this, where a pilot loses his life. And that is, one is, there's a catastrophic failure, there is a major technical failure in the aircraft, or second, there is a error of judgment, or because the margins of error are extremely thin while performing such show. And it is I think it is too premature, with just about an hour and a half gone from the time of this accident, to come to any kind of conclusion whether what would have happened. There could be multiple reasons for which this accident would have taken place. And I can assure you that no pilot, today's pilots are so very well trained in Air Force, especially those who are doing these air displays, that they exactly know where to eject and where not to eject. And so when you're talking about ejection seats, there are other very many other limitations which I would not like to go into details about. And so yes, it's a 0-0 ejection seat, but there are maneuvers in which in certain conditions a pilot cannot eject, or if he's trying to recover that aircraft, he knows the aircraft could be flyable, he knows the aircraft is not completely gone out of control, and that is a time, if something catastrophic like this takes place, that gives very little chance to a pilot to recover. And that is the only reason. And it is such a sad day for the Indian Air Force and for the nation, to be losing a pilot, that too abroad, in a very high profile air display like this. So my condolences to the family, to the Air Force, and to the nation. And we must, I think, thank this officer who we lost, for the great service he did, and great laurels he's brought to the nation.
Absolutely, that loss is going to be incomparable as far as the pilot is concerned. But what happens next, Airvice Marshal? That also is something that needs to be looked at, isn't it? Because this is, like I was pointing out earlier as well, this is only the second time that we've seen a Tejas in a crash. That the Tejas has crashed in the last 2 decades or so, ever since it's been inducted in 2016. We do have to take some lessons from here, Airvice Marshal, isn't it?
Absolutely. Every time an incident, I'm not talking about an accident, every time an incident takes place, we draw lessons, and we try and put into effect measures so that such incident and accidents do not repeat. And I'm 100% sure that Air Force will go threadbare into every millisecond of this videos, to identify. And there is a flight data recorder, and there is a cockpit voice recorder, both are there in the aircraft, and those will be analyzed in great detail before the final cause of the accident is established. And once the cause is established, I am very sure that corrective measures would be instituted, whether it is on the technical side, or on the malfunction side, or on the pilot flying side.
Do stay on with us. Wing Commander S. Sudhakaran, former IAF officer, also joining us. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, your first thoughts on what exactly transpired. What do you think may have happened in those few minutes?
One of the first things that I don't want to do is speculate, because it's too early to say anything. We are not there. It's not even in our country. So technically speaking, all that we have is some 10 seconds of a video footage, wherein I see the aircraft almost doing a roll of sorts, which possibly is the reason why the pilot has not ejected. And by the time the platform was stable with the nose in its place, and the cockpit facing the sky, probably it was too late. That's all that I could see. Beyond that, there is hardly anything to make out. The kind of fall that it is showing, probably it depicts a lack of thrust from the engine, because it is not nosedived. It has fallen like a stone of sorts. That's what we see right now. So the best thing that we can do to ourselves is not speculate, allow the Court of Inquiry to complete its proceedings, and we will all get to know why it happened and what happened, and what are the remedial measures that need to be taken at present. My heart goes out to the family because I've just got to hear that the pilot is no more. It's one of my fellow brethren. I'm lost for words, but that's the nature of the business that Air Force is in. There is an everyday threat to the pilot every time, however capable the pilot is. These are things that do happen, and we must understand it, and we must give time to the professionals to do their job. Uh, rather than trying to immediately try to find, because nothing can bring that aircraft or the life back. That's all I have to say in the initial, comments that I have to offer for what you have asked me.
Absolutely. India does stand with the family of this pilot. We had the IAF offer its condolences as well. Now we have Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan too coming out regretting the incident and offering his condolences to the family of the pilot who lost his life. But Air Vice Marshal, I want to ask you this. We were talking about, the Wing Commander was talking about the trajectory in which this went down. Is that something that could give an inkling of what could have happened? Is that something that could give us answers as well? The way it sort of didn't nosedive but went directly in?
See, if you see the footage, whatever little footage at whatever angle is available, it just gives one input, that is that the aircraft has rolled. And after the roll, the aircraft has just gone down. And so it could, why has it rolled at such a low altitude with the nose down? Is the question that I have. And after that, if it has rolled and it's gone down at such a fast rate, does not seem to be a kind of a planned maneuver. And that is something that points to a possible technical malfunction, probably a kind of if there's a control malfunction, fly-by-wire control failure, or even if there was a thrust loss, the aircraft would not roll. The aircraft would still fly wings level if it is just the thrust loss. The question that comes to my mind is, why has the aircraft rolled at that point in time before it is impacting the ground? And that is where probably the investigation would have to go into little greater detail in terms of what were the control inputs, what was the thrust of the aircraft, what was the speed of the aircraft, why did it roll, was it an uncommanded roll or was it a role done by the pilot. So there are a lot of other factors which are there, and at this point in time, it is, I would say that it's too premature to even think to do any kind of investigation on national media.
Absolutely, and we don't intend to do that either. We will wait for the facts to come out as and when they do. The IAF, of course, is going to investigate all of that, and will eventually find out what comes of it, what exactly transpired, and how it can be avoided the next time around. Wing Commander Nikita Chatterjee is also with us. But before I come in with you, I do want to get in a very special guest that joins us here. Air Marshal Anil Chopra, former fighter pilot, is also joining us on this broadcast. Thank you so much for speaking with us, sir, here on CNN News 18. You survived a Mirage 2000 crash. This was back in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. The scenes that we are seeing today, what do you make of it? What do you make of what may have happened today?
You know, every crash, I must say, is very unfortunate, more so if it's a fatal crash where the pilot, a very great professional, who is the best in the country, best especially chosen to do a display of this kind, is lost. And it really pains, and my condolences to the family. Now, we all have seen the videos, the visuals. I myself have been a flying display director at Aero India 2003. I understand the whole mechanics of carrying out an air show of this kind. The pilots are flying at the limits of the envelope of the aircraft. It's a display. You're trying to impress not only the public, but also the professionals and the possible people who could be buying that aircraft one day. So it is a very challenging task to carry out a display. Therefore, very mature and good fighter pilots or test pilots are carrying out these displays. Now, what we have seen today, of course, I'm not conjecturing, it has been a downward repositioning turn. Some people are calling it barrel roll, but yes, basically he's trying to reposition. And in the downward part of the maneuver, in the terminal part, there has been a mush. That means the speed and rate of descent, our combination is such that the aircraft has gone into the ground. Now, again, as I said, many people have talked about, could it be a control failure, technical failure, engine thrust reduction, at what some stage. anything can happen, could be an error of judgment or error of assessment of the rate of descent. But I must tell you that, I was the flying member of the court inquiry of Wing Commander Joe Bakshi, who crashed in a similar display at Palam Airport, flying the Mirage 2000. And I will tell you that the aircraft is fully serviceable when it flies. LCA has had a good track record, barring one aircraft which we lost earlier about a year back for a technical reason. This aircraft been fully serviceable, and there's unlikely that will be an issue. But the court of inquiry will use a fine tooth comb. They will go into great details. They will look at sabotage. They will look at technical failures. They will read the FDRs of the past flights. They will look at the snags that would have been on this aircraft earlier. So great detail will come out. And mind you, there is a special crew which sits down in the air traffic control, which is specially created for the flying display, where the flying display director sits, and also an LCA pilot fully qualified on type would be sitting there to give advice or to make a corrective action if he deems fit. But the maneuvers are so dynamic that it is not possible or correct to interject as long as the pilot is carrying out maneuvers beautifully. Yes.
Air Marshal Chopra, you were once also in a similar situation. You ejected safely. Why do you think that this pilot wasn't able to? What could have been the reasons for that?
In my case, I had altitude, we had time, and therefore ejection was possible, and we were not doing a display, so they were quite different. Yes, I did eject, the only Air Marshal in the world to have ejected in the rank of an Air Marshal, but in this case, in a display, the dynamics are absolutely very different. This is not the first time this has happened. There have been air crashes during air shows all over the world. Every 3-4 years, you have had an air crash, and there have been cases like in a Su-27 in a display, hit the ground, and yet the pilots ejected and came out safely. Luckily, they didn't land in the plume of the fire that came out of the same aircraft. So everything is possible. But again, unfortunately, the pilot is no more. We do not know what was in his mind, what was the decision-making matrix, what was he going through, and how he was trying to, continue with the display. So it's not appropriate to compare the two. They were totally different situations. Yes.
Sure, I agree with you there, to completely different situations, but just to get a sense of what could have happened, because we do not want to speculate into what may have happened. We, of course, will wait for the Court of Inquiry to conclude, for the IAF to come out and give us exact details of what has happened. But it is still an unfortunate loss, Air Marshal Chopra, that we're dealing with, which is why we're talking about this in the first place. And I do want to ask you this. We were talking about the FDRs, the flight data recorders, and the data which perhaps will give us an inkling and be a part of the investigation as well as to what happened. But given what has happened, the kind of scenes that we have seen, you must have seen the visuals as well. What are the chances of the recovery of the FDR? What are the chances of, getting accurate data from that?
The FDR is normally hardened. It is, placed in such a place that it is caters for a possible crash. We've seen in the recent Air India 171 case, where the whole aircraft, practically everybody barring one person died, and yet we were able to take out the FDR. It took time there because it was a large aircraft, it got into a building, but here it's open ground, it's a desert airfield, and therefore the FDR recovery might have already been done by now. We do not know, because people move very quickly. The crash crew moved very, very fast. The LCA crew, technical crew who would have been there with the aircraft which would have gone from here, they would have already moved there and might have already retrieved it. So, of course, it pains because it's an indigenous aircraft. It's our flagship aircraft. After the Marut HF-24, this is the first big aircraft that, program that we are running in the country. It's important for us that it succeeds. It has to replace the MiG-21s in large numbers. We have already committed to more than 200 aircraft, including Mark 1A. So therefore, it is all the more painful. Some of the others who are not great friends of India, they might, try to make an issue out of it, to try to belittle us, but doesn't matter. This is a time for us to be strong, and I'm sure that we, as a nation, we will pick up from where we are. And we know that these are the risks of not only fighter flying, but especially of the display flight.
And Air Marshal Chopra, the Tejas is believed to be one of the safer fighter jets that we do have. Since 2016, since the time it's been inducted in that one decade, we've only seen two such crashes. One happened in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So there is reason to believe that this is an aberration, really.
If I may use the phrase, nazar lag gayi hai usko. LCA is an aircraft. We analysts who write about the LCA and AMCA program all the time, and we were all the time praising the flight safety record till it finally we lost one about a year back because of technical failure. Yes, it's had a good track record. I met the pilots and technicians who have been working on the aircraft. The pilots are very happy. The handling qualities are very good. The fly-by-wire system is exceedingly good. And a lot of weapon integration had already taken place. The technical people are happy with the servicing schedules that they have got. They have got improved now. With 1A, it will be even better. So I think the aircraft was doing very well, but we know that about 4-5 days back when the aircraft was performing in Dubai, some of the Pakistani Twitter handles were making some nonsensical comments, if I may use that word. But that's okay. We are a big nation. We are here to succeed, and we are looking forward to more LCAs and the AMCA subsequently joining the Indian Air Force.
Absolutely. This was India's indigenous story, India's Atmanirbharta story as well as far as the Tejas goes. That's something like you've been pointing out, Air Marshal Chopra, as well, that some countries, some outside of India may not necessarily be very open about talking. They would want to, highlight this particular instance as a failure, so to say. But it's far from it, because the story that India has had, especially with Tejas, it's been decades of work on it. And eventually we've gotten to the stage where we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And, LCA is, as far as technology is concerned, it's a good aircraft. I'm a test pilot. I have watched the LCA program very closely. I was the head of the Air Force, Flight Test Center, the Aircraft Systems and Testing Establishment in Bangalore. I was the commandant. So I have closely watched this program. It's a good program. Yes, there have been delays due to production numbers. The Indian Air Force is waiting for LCA Mark 1A. It's got delayed because of the GE 404 engine and also of some other technical reasons. But the Indian Air Force is excitedly waiting for this aircraft to join the Air Force fleet in large numbers. The many squadrons, we require 6 to 8 squadrons immediately of these aircraft. Productions have been increased. We have already got the third LCA line operational in Nasik. We will be able to make 24 aircraft a year, I hope, from next year onwards. And the whole country it's a whole of nation approach, and we are all trying to work towards the LCA program success.
Absolutely. Air Marshal Anil Chopra, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. This may be a blip as far as India's story goes. We are tracking, of course, what happens in this particular case, and this tragedy that took place during the Dubai Air Show. Air Vice Marshal Ravi Kapoor continues to be with us. Wing Commander Sudhakaran is with us as well. Air Vice Marshal, let me ask you this. You must have heard the conversation that I was just having. And we're talking about, yes, this one incident, but do you think this is something that could have a larger impact on India's story as far as indigenous aircrafts are concerned?
I don't think so. India's story is a success story, and it will continue to be a success story, primarily because of the safety record that Tejas has had, and the kind of indigenization that we have had. You will find that even after Op Sindoor, the latest US congressional report has brought out that there was propaganda by China against the Rafale, and so such propaganda would certainly take place in some quarters, but I don't think it should affect us. I think it should reinvigorate our the whole nation to come stand behind this tragedy and get over it quickly, and then get over it with double the intensity to ensure that we are seen as a very, very capable aerospace industry and air force in the world, which has a very good safety record and a very good production record. So in both ways, I think we should just put this behind us very quickly, though investigate it in detail to see that what was the cause of the accident, come out with very clear recommendations of after having identified the cause, and then move on, because like Air Marshal Chopra said, these things take place nowhere in the world. F-35, so many F-35s have crashed, but F-35s continues to be a success story across the world. And similarly, I think LCA should be a success story across the world, and we should come out stronger after this crash. And may I just correct that I'm an Air Marshal and not AVM.
I apologize for that, Air Marshal Kapoor. Wing Commander Sudhakaran also continues to be with us. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, do you concur that this is only going to make us stronger? We're going to only make a comeback from what we learned from this?
That's a no-brainer because, see, gone are the times when India could depend on foreign powers for its air power requirements. Now you are already knocking and becoming the world's third largest economic power. With this level of power that you enjoy, you need to shoulder certain responsibilities. And that's where indigenization and specifically of weapon systems becomes key. Mind you, the next generation of weapon systems are going to be increasingly intelligentized, and therefore you can't buy it off the shelf and use it. And these kind of things compel us, come what may. Yes, one accident, two accident doesn't matter, but we need to, make our results that much more stronger. And Tejas is, it's one thing to talk about exporting it, but primarily it has to fulfill the requirements of the Indian Air Force, which needs 42 squadrons. So if it is not for Tejas, then we are going to have a very, very tough time. We need a lot of aircrafts of this to fill our inventory, in the times to come. And therefore, accidents like this, yes, I agree with the Air Marshal that accidents like these do happen. In fact, we have had accidents across the fleet, but that doesn't stop Indian Air Force from flying. In fact, Indian Air Force is one of the air forces which flies the maximum amongst the world. So, and they will continue to do so, considering the hostile neighbors on the east and west. And these things don't, make us keep one step back, but it only, resolves. And then, of course, we have to be more cautious. We need to learn and we need to upgrade our SOPs. And then if there is any shortcomings in our manuals, we need to correct it, both in terms of operations as well as in terms of maintenance. But then having said that, my heart goes out to the family of the pilot, and I share the grief today with them.
Absolutely. We stand with the family, with the Indian Air Force as well. Air Marshal Kapoor, if I'm not mistaken, there are two squadrons that are based in the south of India, part of which was the one that was at the Dubai Air Show. There are at least 40 aircraft of the same version that are currently in operation with the IAF?
Yes, you are right. These are the Mark 1s, which are the first block of aircraft that was manufactured by HAL. And 40 of them have been manufactured. There are two squadrons. One is in the west and one is in the south. And both squadrons are completely operational. They do operational roles, and they would have even participated in Op Sindoor. While we await Mark 1A, which has got delayed basically because of the delays in the engine and the integration of some weapons and some integration issues. And we await induction of Mark 1As, which is a upgraded version of Mark 1. So it would be a much more capable aircraft than Mark 1, which is the aircraft which was participating in the air display at Dubai. And so these two squadrons are fully operational, and they have been doing these kind of displays, and they have been participating in all kind of exercises across the world, and have been flying across continents. So they are completely operational and fully ready for any kind of air operations.
Right. So as far as moving on from here on, Air Marshal is concerned, the lessons we will of course take from this as far as this particular version is concerned. But as far as developing further indigenous aircraft like these are concerned, or upgradation of any of these aircraft is concerned, is that something that we could also take lessons from this particular incident?
I think once again it is too premature to start taking any lessons from this incident.
Sure.
But I'm very sure that if there are any technical issues that are identified during the Court of Inquiries, they would be addressed in a very, very methodical manner. And if they have any consequences for the Mark 1As, that would be incorporated too. But because there are a lot of commonalities between Mark 1 and Mark 1A. And so, if there is anything that points to a shortcoming, technical shortcoming, then it would be certainly addressed in the future Mark 1As too, before the Mark 1A gets even inducted. Or if there is any technical shortcoming, it would be addressed in the present fleet of Mark 1s, which are in service presently, the 39 aircraft that are there.
Wing Commander Sudhakaran, the Tejas version of the aircraft has flown at several global forums in the past as well. Since its induction in 2016, at across multiple countries, the Tejas has flown several exercises it has undertaken as well, not just in India but around the world as well. In 2023, if I'm not mistaken, is when there was a turning point as far as the Tejas Mark 1 is concerned, when the first ever international deployment happened for a combat level exercise.
Since I've left the Air Force 5 years back, so I wouldn't be able to exactly comment on, that particular detail. But then I can, of course, tell you that the one thing that stands out is it is not an unusually unsafe kind of an aircraft. It is pretty much a very stable platform. The ratio of crash to fleet, when you actually look at it, they just stands at, roughly around less than a 5% percentile points. And then if you compare the same with the likes of F-16s and F-18s, they are well over into the double digits, into the 12 and 13 percentile points. In fact, the Eurofighter as well as the Rafale are the only ones which rank below the Tejas, given its track record so far. So I don't have any reasons to have any disbelief in the platform. It is pretty much a proven platform. We will have to wait for the results of the Court of Inquiry to be able to come to any conclusions of sorts. It's too early to pick any learnings from, in under 3 hours. We in Air Force have definitely not been taught to do so, or never we do such kind of things. Aircraft accident or stroke, even an incident, it's a very, very complex phenomena. And it is very, very important we find out the right facts and then try to look at learning. Just because an accident happens, not necessarily means that there is a lot to learn, but that also doesn't mean that there is nothing to learn. It is time that will tell us what is the way forward. How do we minimize these accidents? And in the times to come, when platforms will be controlled by devices and chips and the intelligence from the digital domain, I think we will certainly not lose human lives. A pilot's life is very, very precious. And however competent, however capable they are, you've seen that in a premier event like this, we have lost one of the precious souls of our motherland. And therefore, it's very important to keep these things in the right perspective, not hurry, speculate, try to get into, probably score TRP points here. These things that we must avoid. And what we can best do is wait for the results to come.
And speaking of those results, Air Marshal Kapoor, how long does it take for a court of inquiry, for this investigation, for a thorough one to be completed before the facts are fully out?
See, it depends on how quickly we can decode the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder once we find it. And once that gets decoded, thereafter it takes kind of all the other people who are present there, we interview them. And in this whole process could probably the initial part would can come out even in a couple of weeks to 3 to 4 weeks. But a code of inquiry, complete details, takes a lot of time. It takes some time. Around it could take if something has to be investigated consequently, if something has to go for testing and further investigation, then we have to wait for that much longer. But if there is a clear cut factor which comes out, then it could get over even within a month or so. But in case, yes, if the engine has to be sent for some investigation and some testing and all, then it could take even longer. So it just depends on what are the kind of reasons for which the accident took place, and depending on the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, then the future of the investigation then follows. So it could take anything from probably 3 weeks to a month to more than that, depending on how much is the depth of investigation that one has to go to find the exact cause of the failure.
Absolutely, and we'll wait for that code of inquiry to be concluded, for facts to come out of what exactly transpired. I have to leave it there. I thank you both, gentlemen, Wing Commander Sudhakaran and Air Marshal Kapoor, for joining us here with your perspective and sharing those inputs. My colleague Akash continues to be with us, getting us more details of what exactly transpired and what comes next. Akash, we've been talking about the code of inquiry which has been instituted by the IAF, which will give us full details of what exactly transpired in those few minutes from takeoff to after the Tejas nosedived and eventually ended up in that plume of fireball, that plume of smoke that came out on the sidelines of the Dubai Air Show.
Oh, yes, we will wait for the court of inquiry, in fact, the investigation. And as Air Marshal Kapoor was pointing out that, it will take at least 1 month to, get the basic details out of the incident. Because there are a number of things that will be investigated because you see, I was in fact mentioning just a while back that whenever it is about the maneuvering and the air display, so the ground staff, in fact, the support staff is aware of the sort of turns or the maneuvering, that is going to happen. If there was an indication that pilot is facing glitches, if something unusual was noticed or something similar to that, it will be investigated. And also, I was talking about this Tejas Mark 1. We have been seeing these aircraft, very much a part of operations in Air Force. A number of exercises are taking place, and these aircraft are successfully participating in all those exercises. So, one cannot raise question on the aircraft directly and immediately after this sort of incident. Of course, it will be investigated if there was some sort of problem in the engine, if there was some sort of problem with the other technical systems in the aircraft. But this is unfortunate where we have lost one pilot. This was one of the 3 aircraft that are very much present in the Dubai Air Show, Poonam, you see. One is standing for the ground display, and 2 aircraft, were there that were used interchangeably, for the air display. In the 5 days, we have seen at least, on 4 days, this aircraft has performed. One of those, 40 aircraft that are very much there, with Indian Air Force. Indian Air Force is operating these close to 40 aircraft. 2 are the, of course, trainer aircraft, so around 38 aircraft, are there. 2 squadrons I was mentioning, and first aircraft was delivered in 2015. And since then, we have been seeing that how these aircraft were delivered subsequently. 3 aircraft were sent, and whenever these aircraft were, are sent to any event. So we see generally a mix of these squadrons where, they can send 2 aircraft from one squadron and 1 aircraft from one squadron. We'll get all these details, in fact, the name of the pilot, but there is a protocol, which is followed. Normally the family members are informed, and then, Air Force come out with the official confirmation on the name of the pilot. But it is very unfortunate. In fact, I was putting out some visuals where, the Tejas team, the entire Tejas team, met with MOS Defense and, Vice Chief of Indian Air Force on the very first day. We have those visuals. I was very much present. I interacted with, these pilots, in fact, during last 2-3 days. And I was very much present during the air display yesterday and day before yesterday too. But this is unfortunate. Today, this incident has happened at around 2:10 p.m., where we have been given to understand that, this particular aircraft crashed. We still don't know as to what went wrong. Investigation, will lead us to the facts and, somewhere the conclusion of what went wrong. But this is very unfortunate. We have lost 1 pilot and 1 aircraft of the Indian Air Force.
Right, Akash, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. We will keep a track of what comes of this. We will be awaiting reactions coming in. The IAF has already put out a statement confirming the unfortunate death of the pilot who was on board that Tejas. Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, also put out a statement expressing regret at what happened and, of course, expressing his condolences to the family of the pilot. We'll keep a track of all of that. But for now, it's time for a quick pause here.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Now, as the probe into the Delhi blast, we're shifting our focus now, as this probe into the Delhi blast deepens, the NIA has uncovered a larger, more sinister terror conspiracy following two major arrests in the past 48 hours. Investigations now reveal that the group was modifying drones to develop rocket-based explosives for a Hamas-style attack in the national capital. A key breakthrough came with the arrest of Jasir Bilal Wani, who also is known as Danish, a Jammu and Kashmir resident and a key aide of Umar Nabi. He has been named an active co-conspirator, also accused of providing technical support. This includes the drone modification for a Hamas-style attack and attempts to build rocket-based bombs. Meanwhile, the Enforcement Directorate has arrested Jawad Ahmad Siddiqui, who is the founder of Al Falah University, in a money laundering case as well. As you know, when it comes to the Al Falah University, when it comes to its records, its accreditation, its finances, there is a lot to unpack. There a lot remains unanswered when it comes to that as well. The arrest follows evidence which was gathered during the recent searches at locations connected to this entire terror module. Now, CNN has also accessed order which is sending the Al Falah owners to 13 days ED custody, as I just told you. The founder of the Al Falah University is in custody. Saket Court says his custodial interrogation is imperative to unearth the larger terror ecosystem, the Al Falah ecosystem. Saket Court also noted that the ED submission that only a small part of Al Falah ecosystem has been identified till now. And they've also said that his family members are in the Gulf and he might flee the country as well. So that is a threat that remains. However, the owner has been sent into 13 days custody and that remains imperative. He is a very, very crucial link here. As you know, Al Falah was truly at the center of all the terror that was emerging from this university, and we're yet to uncover what was really going on behind the scenes. For more on this, we have with us Ananya. Thank you so much for joining us, Ananya. We really are learning more and more about this Al Falah University. It only goes to show how far and wide this entire network had spread.
Well, absolutely. In fact, this is a big breakthrough that the Enforcement Directorate had as far as the funding of the Al Falah University is concerned. And the Al Falah Trust owner was actually taken into custody by the Enforcement Directorate yesterday. And a 13-day police custody remand was granted after he was produced late last night before, in fact, the additional sessions judge at the Saket Court. And very important to highlight is that the court has noted that not only his family members are in the Gulf, but there is a big risk that he might flee the country. And that's the reason why custodial interrogation is necessary. Not only that, a small chunk, the Enforcement Directorate says and tells the court that a small chunk of the Al Falah ecosystem, which amounts to over 415 crores, is something, that has been uncovered, and it could be much larger in nature, and that is why his custodial interrogation is necessary, since he's somebody who knows about all the financial roots of the Al Falah Trust and the kind of funding that comes through the Al Falah University. And that's the reason why, in fact, this particular person needs to be in the custody of the Enforcement Directorate. 13 days of police custody remand is what has been granted. 14 days was actually sought. And that is something, that makes it very, very imperative as to what was this university actually in reality. Was it, in fact, a terror funding ecosystem? Was it, a university university that was fueling terror, or whether there are much more than what meets the eye, is something that could be uncovered by this multi-agency probe that is being carried out by, in fact, the Enforcement Directorate, the National Investigation Agency, and obviously the Faridabad and the Delhi police itself.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Now, as the probe into the Delhi blast, we're shifting our focus now, as this probe into the Delhi blast deepens, the NIA has uncovered a larger, more sinister terror conspiracy following two major arrests in the past 48 hours. Investigations now reveal that the group was modifying drones to develop rocket-based explosives for a Hamas-style attack in the national capital. A key breakthrough came with the arrest of Jasir Bilal Wani, who also is known as Danish, a Jammu and Kashmir resident and a key aide of Umar Nabi. He has been named an active co-conspirator, also accused of providing technical support. This includes the drone modification for a Hamas-style attack and attempts to build rocket-based bombs. Meanwhile, the Enforcement Directorate has arrested Jawad Ahmed Siddiqui, who is the founder of Al Falah University, in a money laundering case as well. As you know, when it comes to the Al Falah University, when it comes to its records, its accreditation, its finances, there is a lot to unpack. A lot remains unanswered when it comes to that as well. The arrest follows evidence which was gathered during the recent searches at locations connected to this entire terror module. Now, CNN has also accessed order which is sending the Al Falah owners to 13 days ED custody, as I just told you. The founder of the Al Falah University is in custody. Saket Court says his custodial interrogation is imperative to unearth the larger terror ecosystem, the Al Falah ecosystem. Saket Court also noted that the ED submission that only a small part of Al Falah ecosystem has been identified till now. And they've also said that his family members are in the Gulf and he might flee the country as well. So that is a threat that remains. However, the owner has been sent into 13 days custody and that remains imperative. He is a very, very crucial link here. As you know, Al Falah was truly at the center of all the terror that was emerging from this university, and we're yet to uncover what was really going on behind the scenes. For more on this, we have with us Ananya. Thank you so much for joining us, Ananya. We really are learning more and more about this Al Falah University. It only goes to show how far and wide this entire network had spread.
Well, absolutely. In fact, this is a big breakthrough that the Enforcement Directorate had as far as the funding of the Al Falah University is concerned. And the Al Falah Trust owner was actually taken into custody by the Enforcement Directorate yesterday. And a 13-day police custody remand was granted after he was produced late last night before, in fact...
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nation at 5. A Tejas fighter jet crashed this afternoon during a flying demonstration at the Dubai Air Show, sending a plume of thick black smoke over the international airport, even as crowds looked on. That is the fireball that was what the aircraft was turned into. Eventually, there was a plume of smoke that came out of there. Now there is completely barren land after that fire has been doused. The aircraft, a single-seat light combat aircraft that's developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, went down at about 2:10 p.m. Local time in Dubai. An official statement has come out from the Indian Air Force giving confirmation on the crash and the tragic demise of the pilot in the incident. The IF has informed that an inquiry team to probe the cause of the crash has also been constituted. A court of inquiry will find out what exactly transpired in the final moments, what led to the crash. The flight data recorder is also going to be extremely crucial as far as ascertaining the facts of what happened are concerned. So what is this fighter jet that went down? This crashed fighter jet, Tejas Mark 1. This is part of the two operational squadrons that India has, that the IAF has of the Tejas Mark 1s. It's considered a fourth generation fighter aircraft. One of the 3 Tejas Mark 1s that are present in the Dubai Air Show is the one that went down today. There were 3 that were taking part in the Dubai Air Show that has been going on for the last several days. There are at least 40 Tejas Mark 1 aircraft that are used in the Indian Air Force that are operational as we speak. There were 2 squadrons in the south of India in Sulur. These 3 aircraft were part of one of those 2 squadrons that are based in the south of India. One squadron, I believe, is in Rajasthan. The IAF has issued a statement over what has transpired. It has gone on to say that the IAF Tejas aircraft met with an accident in Dubai. This was during an aerial display at the Dubai Air Show. The pilot succumbed to fatal injuries in the accident is what the IAF has also confirmed, going on to say that they deeply regret the loss of life and stand with the family of the bereaved. Court of inquiry is being constituted. It will ascertain the cause. We will find out more details when the report of that court of inquiry is made public, or if details do come out. The flight data recorder is going to be extremely crucial. Once that's recovered, once we have details of what exactly happened, that's when we will know. That's when the investigating team will know what exactly happened and what lessons can be taken, if any, from this tragic incident. Akash, my colleague, joins us, getting us more details on this. Akash, we've seen condolences coming in from across quarters. Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan too expressing his condolences to the bereaved family.
And in fact, we have seen the political leaders, in fact, Arvind Kejriwal, Rahul Gandhi, and others have been tweeting about this tragic loss where the country has lost one pilot in this particular incident. And it is very unfortunate, Poonam. We have been discussing as to what can be the reason behind the particular incident. But then, several details are trickling in, and we are waiting for some sort of clarity from the Indian Air Force as to what went wrong.
Right, and we will keep an eye out of when we get those details. For the moment, Akash, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. It is a wrap from my side here on this edition of Nation at 5. Plain Speak coming up next.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Now, as the probe into the Delhi blast, we're shifting our focus now, as this probe into the Delhi blast deepens, the NIA has uncovered a larger, more sinister terror conspiracy following 2 major arrests in the past 48 hours. Investigations now reveal that the group was modifying drones to develop rocket-based explosives for a Hamas-style attack in the national capital. A key breakthrough came with the arrest of Jasir Bilal Wani, who also is known as Danish, a Jammu and Kashmir resident and a key aide of Umar Nabi. He has been named an active co-conspirator, also accused of providing technical support. This includes the drone modification for a Hamas-style attack and attempts to build rocket-based bombs. Meanwhile, the Enforcement Directorate has arrested Jawad Ahmed Siddiqui, who is the founder of Al Falah University, in a money laundering case as well. As you know, when it comes to the Al Falah University, when it comes to its records, its accreditation, its finances, there is a lot to unpack. There a lot remains unanswered when it comes to that as well. The arrest follows evidence which was gathered during the recent searches at locations connected to this entire terror module. Now, CNN has also accessed order which is sending the Al Falah owners to 13 days ED custody, as I just told you. The founder of the Al Falah University is in custody. Saket Court says his custodial interrogation is imperative to unearth the larger terror ecosystem, the Al Falah ecosystem. Saket Court also noted that the ED submission that only a small part of Al Falah ecosystem has been identified till now. And they've also said that his family members are in the Gulf and he might flee the country as well. So that is a threat that remains. However, the owner has been sent into 13 days custody and that remains imperative. He is a very, very crucial link here. As you know, Al Falah was truly at the center of all the terror that was emerging from this university, and we're yet to uncover what was really going on behind the scenes. For more on this, we have with us Ananya. Thank you so much for joining us, Ananya. We really are learning more and more about this Al-Falah University. It only goes to show how far and wide this entire network had spread.
Well, absolutely. In fact, this is a big breakthrough that the Enforcement Directorate had as far as the funding of the Al-Falah University is concerned. And the Al-Falah Trust owner was actually taken into custody by the Enforcement Directorate yesterday. And a 13-day police custody remand was granted after he was produced late last night before, in fact, the additional sessions judge at the Saket Court. And very important to highlight is that the court has noted that not only his family members are in the Gulf, but there is a big risk that he might flee the country. And that's the reason why custodial interrogation is necessary. Not only that, a small chunk, the Enforcement Directorate says and tells the court that a small chunk of the Al-Falah ecosystem, which amounts to over 415 crores, is something, that has been uncovered, and it could be much larger in nature, and that is why his custodial interrogation is necessary, since he's somebody who knows about all the financial roots of the Al-Falah Trust and the kind of funding that comes through the Al-Falah University. And that's the reason why, in fact, this particular person needs to be in the custody of the Enforcement Directorate. 13 days of police custody remand is what has been granted. 14 days was actually.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. In a fresh flashpoint, Tamil Nadu Deputy Chief Minister Udayanithi Stalin has now called Sanskrit a dead language, charging at the centre for spending 2,400 crore rupees on Sanskrit while giving a stepmotherly treatment to Tamil, for example. For many, this isn't just a linguistic economy complaint, but yet another attack on India's cultural and spiritual heritage. After all, this isn't the first time DMK has quoted controversy over Hindi or Sanskrit or even the Hindu religion and its texts. Their pride in Tamil language has often been seen as antagonistic to Hindi and Hindus. DMK, born from the anti-caste Periyar movement, has historically challenged Sanskrit as a symbol of Brahminical dominance, but Udayanithi Stalin's latest comment raises a rather broader question. Why does a political leader, especially of his stature, feel empowered to deride one of the world's oldest languages in service for perhaps some political point scoring alone, and a language born out of India? Is this merely a rhetorical device to appeal to regional sentiment, or is it part of a carefully cultivated strategy that pits Tamil identity against what DMK often frames as hegemonic North Indian culture? But another fundamental question is this: Sanskrit is of this land. It is the language of our historical heritage and culture. Is deriding a native element of our ancient society a liberal fetish? And is this justified in the name of secular politics? We'll take that and more up with our guests in just a bit. So the big debate, the first one coming up on Plain Speak today, is this purely disdain for India's own, especially one that you politically oppose? Also on the show today, we speak to an expert about the rising student suicide alarm in the entire country on the back of 3 such cases coming to light. Later on the show, also stay tuned for a Plain Speak podcast peek with author Deep Haldar on everything that is going wrong in Bangladesh and more. Now, by the literal definition, a dead language usually refers to one that's no longer in active communication anymore. Does this epithet suit Sanskrit? In fact, Sanskrit is widely used in Hindu and Buddhist religions, rituals, hymns, chants, mantras across India.